to do tonight. Good evening, everybody. My name is Michael Schwarnow. I am with DocuSign, and we are very happy to host this event and happy to have you here tonight. So thank you very much for coming. I'm going to introduce the guests and we'll get started. But before that, we're DocuSign, so I promise you two more corny things. So I'm going to ask who has in the audience used DocuSign before? Show of hands. All right, excellent, thank you. So thank you for your business. That's the second corny thing. The third one is, as you can tell from my accent, I wasn't born in the US, I'm Polish. I've been here for about 13 years. So for me, coming here and kind of staying a little bit longer than I thought, the answer is pretty obvious. And when I talked to Boris about this event, he thought I'd be a perfect fit because my spouse also wasn't born in the US, and we kind of ended up working in a high tech, both of us. So my perspective is a little bit biased because I figured out what the American dream is about. You come to US and you marry a Brazilian, that's what happens. Once again, thank you very much for coming, and we're very excited to have a great panel and a great discussion tonight. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Michael, and thank you so much, DocuSign, for letting us use this fantastic venue with this wonderful view on the Bay Bridge. We really want to today create a bridge between Central Europe and the Bay Area. So no more perfect fit to doing this event here. We want to also talk about global talent flows and also at the same time remind you of a region, Central Europe. You see it in the back, the 5 Central European countries that have formed this initiative, Central Europe Connection. And we're launching this initiative tonight. We want to connect our respective countries with the Bay Area, with Silicon Valley, with San Francisco, but we also want to connect our communities together. And in order to find out which of our communities is most present here, I want to ask you for your help. We want to not only know how many people from each country are here or have a connection to a country, but who shouts loudest when we mention the countries, the 5 countries from Central Europe. So I want to just start randomly with one country by asking one of you, where are you from?
From Poland.
Okay, Poland again. Michael was from Poland. It's the biggest country, and I want to know from you now, by shouting out loud, is Poland here tonight? All right, so I think Poland is here tonight. Let's check with the Czechs. Is the Czech Republic here tonight? Excellent. Czech Republic is here tonight as well. And neighbor to the east, Slovakia, the Slovak Republic. Is the Slovak Republic here tonight as well? Yes. Conservative country. Let's go further south, first to the east. Is Hungary here tonight? Woo! Yes. They take a bit, but they're here. They're here. Hungary is here tonight as well. And then I myself, I'm Martin, by the way, I didn't introduce myself. I'm from Open Austria. So are there by any chance, any fellow Austrians here tonight? So fantastic. So we have Central Europe here very present, but we also want to meet up here with other Central European countries, other European countries, other countries. So is the rest of the world present here tonight as well? Fantastic. So we're all here. And we want to also tonight present you with one initiative. We want you to join, if you are from Central Europe, if you have a connection to Central Europe, we want you to join our Facebook group, which we just created tonight. Sign up, please, at Central Europeans in the Bay Area. This is how our Facebook page looks like. If you have anything related to Central Europe, any events, any music, any goulash, any Apfelstrudel, let us know, let your fellow communities know about it. This is the new Facebook group since today. We also have a Twitter hashtag if you want to tweet tonight. So CEConnection or CEC or European talent. We are going to talk about European talents and global talent flows. And then we have something very special for you tonight as well. We're going to involve you with questions. So we have a moderator whom we're going to introduce very shortly, but we want you to ask questions. So what you need to do is very simple. You just need to go take out your smartphones right now and go to slido.com. Now, Slido is a startup present here in the Bay Area from Slovakia, and they are fantastic. So if you go to slido.com, you will be able to ask your question to the moderator. And we want to start this with a poll where we want to see the results instantly. So please take out slido.com. And then, in one word, we have the question here, in one word, what comes to mind when you think of Central Europe? So goulash, of course, comes to our minds. Talent, what else? So please, slido.com. We want to know alcohol. Yes, fantastic. There'll be alcohol there after the event and during the event. Gulls. Goulash. Goulash is the one thing. Strudel, history, vodka, culture, beautiful ladies. So all of this and comes from you, from our Central European communities. We want, while you're doing this, while we find out what is really great about Central Europe, I want to pass on to my dear friend and colleague Maja from Polish Hub, who will present you the people behind CEConnection.
Thank you, Martin. Welcome, everybody. So let me start with Martin. As he said, he's from Open Austria. On his team is as well Anna, who is behind there, recording for us, and also Susie here, and also Anna, another Anna here at the back, and also Georg, who is hiding there at the very end. So this is Open Austria. We also have a Czech team, Czech Invest, Miro here, representing the Czechs. And then we have Hungary. We have Balázs here, representing Hungary, and this is, so that's us. We also want to thank Misha, who has been working with us. So she's from Czech School of California. She has been working with us side by side, so really part of the team. And with us, we are honored to have the honorary consuls of our countries, Barbara, who is the honorary consul of Slovakia. And Richard, who is the honorary consul general of the Czech Republic. And it happens that this is also a marriage, so it's a special couple. Well, yeah. So this is us. With this, let me introduce you to Mick, who was kind enough to be our moderator here. Mick is an entrepreneur himself. He's an Austrian. So he's the co-founder of Update Me, which is a startup in AI area. Welcome.
Thank you so much. So, good evening everyone here. This great initiative. And before I start with the panel, do you hear me good enough, also in the back rows? Yes. Okay, perfect, thank you. So before I start, I want to share something that I mentioned that happened today in the morning. So I had this one phone call with a journalist, very traditional, big media company, happened to be in Berlin, could be anywhere. And he asked me those questions, what are we doing and stuff? And I mentioned, because I thought it's a good idea, we have this initiative here, right? Central Europeans working together in Silicon Valley. And he started this notion, he said, oh, is this something good? Why are you Europeans going out to Silicon Valley? And is Silicon Valley doing anything good for Europe? You know, this type of emotion. I wanted to say, shut up. I didn't say that, I'm a very polite guy. But what I tried to explain to him is the following. I said, if you see a train, a high-speed train, accelerating at high speed, you want to be inside the train or you want to look at it from the outside. And those people here, they are building train stations so we all can access the train easier and be part of it. And I think it's an opportunity for us to thank them with a warm applause for what they're doing here. So this great initiative of those 5 countries working together in Silicon Valley consists of the train stations being built, building the bridges between the countries in Silicon Valley, but also, and this is the panel that I want to introduce to you tonight, we have people here that are already inside the train, trying to be part of this movement here. We have startup founders here, experienced founders, serial entrepreneurs, but also people from the VC part. So it's going to be, I hope, a very interesting panel for you. And I will also, with Slido, try to include your questions. So please use your phones, help us with good questions to make this a rich experience for all of you. So let me introduce the panelists for you. First, here will sit Andreas Klinger from Austria, CTO of productboard. So Andreas, I want you to know our panelists and that you understand a little bit the background, where they come from. So maybe you could tell us a little bit who you are, what you're working in, and what you, so to say, what we shared a little bit in the background, what is, so to say, the focus of your company.
Cool. You guys hear me? Yes. Sweet. Andreas, I'm CTO of a company called productboard. Does anybody here know productboard by any chance? Okay. Cool. Amazing. Essentially, like for those who don't know it, it's a website where new products get launched. So all over the world, people are building amazing stuff, and we're trying to create this place that provides the exposure. And if you're, for example, an investor, it's a very good source of like updates in the industry. If you're like building your own startups, it's a very good source for potential competitors. If you're like working on product, it's a very good source for inspiration. We are also part of a larger network which is called AngelList. Does anybody here know AngelList? Yes. AngelList is essentially a LinkedIn of startups. So you can raise money, you can hire talent, you can find co-founders, and so on and so on. And that's me.
Andreas is very humble, so actually AngelList bought productboard, right? And you're a co-founding member, so
founding team, yeah.
Founding team member, so this is a great deal. Thank you very much, Andreas. So the next one on the panel from the Czech Republic, CEO and founder of the productboard, Hubert Palan.
Hi everyone. Real quick, I'm the founder and CEO of productboard. What we do is that we help product managers to be as good product managers as Steve Jobs was. So any decision maker at a company needs to understand really well the needs and desires of the customers, and how these desires and needs differ by the different customer segments. So what we do is that we help digest insights about the market, about what people need, and then help the teams decide what to build first, what to build next, what to build never. The reason why I'm here is that I'm Czech, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a DocuSign customer, and we are a distributed team. We are based, I've lived here for 10 years, got here to get my MBA at Berkeley, and then got sucked in or get on the train. We have team in the Czech Republic as well. So we have a distribution environment between the US and Europe, and I'm happy to share my observations. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Hubert. So the next guy from Poland, he helped a little bit because wasn't easy for me to pronounce everyone correctly. Say have a welcome for KK. I can name it like that. Can you
hear me okay? Is it working out? Yes, so my original name is Krzysztof, which is impossible for most people to say in the US. And even worse, my last name is Kujava, which if you spell it K-U-J-W-A, you can pronounce it as Kujawa. That sounds quite Japanese. So big stuff. And when it comes to international business, so that's why I simplified to KK. That's my nickname here. So I'm a co-founder of Gabi. Who here? We're in insurance business. Who likes to pay for insurance here? Right, not many people. So what we help you with, and what we help consumers is to pay as little as possible for insurance, while getting the right coverage for your home, your auto, your umbrella, liability insurance, etc. And we do it in a small, mobile app that constantly compares prices for your insurance products. And everybody in America has typically 2 or 3 products that we shop around constantly. We started a company 8 months ago. We were funded by SV Angel, by A Capital, and actually a couple of investors from Germany. So we're a very international team. My partner is German. My co-founders are German. And we have development center in Poland with UI designer, graphic designer in Slovakia, another engineer in Berlin. So we're highly distributed, just like your team. And we have, in a way, a very similar track record. I sold one company in Poland, came here for my MBA at Berkeley, so just across the bay, and stayed afterwards because I love this place so much. And I think this is a really fast-moving train, so it's a good place to be and learn the ecosystem. I spent 2 years on the venture capital side, and all the other last 12 years on the startup side again. And I've been in InsurTech before InsurTech was hot, and now InsurTech is really hot. But I've been with Get Insured as a head of product, and we built covered California, for example. So we insured nearly 1.8 million people in California with health and life insurance. Okay.
Your name is much shorter than your introduction.
I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. As next panelist, I can introduce to you from Hungary, Daniel Victory. He's founder of Innovative.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me now well? So it's the first question, yeah, it looks like. So I'm customer development and co-founder of Innovative. And with Innovative, we provide a collective creativity platform. Mostly now our clients are large organizations like corporates, Fortune 500 companies, non-profits, and also associations and communities. And we help them to boost their innovation processes with different functions like interactive ideation sessions, with a lot of gamification, design thinking built into the platform. We help them to leverage their creative potentials and build not just the stations of the train, but also the trains, I would say. And yeah, we have a well distributed team. Most of our product development team are in Hungary. Also, we have different team members from different countries all around the world. And partly the reason why we are here is that because in 2012 we have won the Global Impact Competition of Singularity University, which is a Google and NASA funded institution here in Martensjö in the NASA Research Park. And that's the reason also why we can have our office there and the growing business development and marketing team.
Well, awesome, thank you so much. Next on the panel, she's so to say, she's having the aggregated knowledge of the pain and the opportunities of all founders here because she did many, many interviews. She will tell you more about it. That's Sylwia Gorajek from Poland. Valley Talks.
Hello everyone, my name is Sylwia Gorajek. I'm a founder and producer and host at Valley Talks. That's a talk show on real life stories of Silicon Valley startups. And so I started this show a year ago, and I came here to Silicon Valley 5 years ago. I'm a video producer also. So I came here to expand my video production business, and it didn't take a long time to kind of dive into startups. I co-founded my own hyperlocal messenger, and I had no clue about startups at that point. We were lucky to raise seed funding, raised money from Netflix co-founder, among other investors. However, after a year and a half, I had to decide to quit the startup, and I soon started to work at Apple and then Netflix. And I still miss the startup vibes, and I decided to tell stories of other startup founders because I knew it's a very hard journey and not everyone may be realizing this, and those people who are actually realizing this, they shouldn't feel alone in this too. So I really wanted to spread the word about how it really feels like to run a startup here in Silicon Valley. And I've done nearly 40 video broadcast quality interviews with founders, and I'm happy to share, the overall knowledge that I've gained with them.
Thank you so much. And I know everyone here can share their stories from their startups, but those two guys that will be probably chased the most after the panel in the networking event are the ones representing the money here. So first of them, I want to introduce to you Arjun Arora, partner from 500 Startups. Welcome.
Hi everyone, I'm Arjun Arora, partner at 500 Startups. Briefly on my background, went to school also at UC Berkeley, just across the bay, electrical engineering, computer science, and then got stuck here in San Francisco. Very happy about that. So yeah, a couple years in tech investment banking, a couple years at Yahoo, helped to run BD for Yahoo Real Estate in the early days as things were moving from offline to online, and then started a couple of companies, the first of which was Retargeter. We grew that and scaled that just down the street from here. The second immediately. And then about 7 years ago, started doing a lot of personal investing and advising. I'm an advisor to AngelList, massive fan of that platform, and invested in other companies as well. And then recently joined 500 as in a full-time capacity, and I lead our efforts globally for fundraising as well as investing. And we do a ton all over the world. We're the most active early-stage investor globally, and many of those investments over the years have been in Europe and even more specifically in Central Europe. So, excited to be here, and thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. So the last but not least person of representing the capital here in Silicon Valley on this panel is Petr Gajdos from Slovakia, representing Presidio.
Hello everyone, can everyone hear me? First of all, apologies if you don't understand me, if I don't make any sense. I just got back from Asia, so I don't know what time it is at all, but just a general introduction. So I've been doing venture capital for 10 years. The first half I've been working in London, investing in Europe and in Israel. The second half I've been investing here in the United States and also in Asia. The fund itself is what you now fashionably call deep tech focused. About 50% of what we do is biotech. The other 50% is general technology, mostly robotics, enterprise software, AI, and a lot of material science. And I kind of straddle between both areas, so I do a lot of material sciences, some biotech, some AI as well. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. So maybe for the beginning, we'll start with a general question, with a question that any one of us had in his head already. Why do European startups come to Silicon Valley? So what did you figure out when doing all those interviews with founders and co-founders?
Well, I feel like this is pretty universal for all of us. We came here for the opportunity, and I think it's very rightly to do so, because there is plenty of opportunity here. It's just about how are we able to use this and put some dots together, and that's the challenge. But everyone really comes here in order to grow, to learn from other smart people, to just use the awesome opportunity that is, I think, still the biggest in the world over here.
Right. So what are the other countries lacking? What would you say? What is the biggest motivation? Is it really just the money, or is it also the mindset? So what did the founders mention as their key factor for success that they found here?
Well, money is of course one of the reasons, but also being able to learn from other people. We all know in the whole world that Silicon Valley has awesome experts and very successful people, so we want to be close to them, so that maybe we are able to just learn faster how they are doing this and learn from them and be connected with them. I think this is still something that causes everyone to come here who is very ambitious, and people who are successful don't really necessarily go out of here, so this community here grows and grows, and it's never ending, kind of, and this is something that really makes people also want to join this.
Right. So, well, I think the next question that's logic somehow is we all want to build bridges between Europe and the States, and it's not a coincidence that here are 4 people sitting that actually work in 2 different continents at the same time. So maybe we want to share a little bit about how does it work? How does it average day look like? Maybe Christoph, you want to KK, you want to give us some insights. So how does an average day look like for you as a founder here in the Valley?
We all know there's 9-hour difference, which is a major obstacle in collaboration for teams. But basically, when we wake up here, we start with a phone call with our engineering team in Poland and Germany. And we basically collaborate remotely very effectively between Slack and Slack video calls and voice calls. The collaboration feels like there's a rhythm, there's a day here and night there. We file new tickets, new specifications, and overnight they get delivered. We release 3-4 times a week, which is quite unusual for most technology startups. We're still so early that speed is more important than perfect product, every feature being perfect. We're still discovering, validating the consumer behavior on our product. And I think the speed is something that excites our engineers. So they stay up late, they are available, they put their kids to bed. We all have families, so they often put their kids to bed after our phone call, and they still respond to questions about the latest features. They sometimes do bug fixes in the middle of the night for the next release. And then they release the product on Monday morning or Wednesday morning. So the next day in the morning, they have basically a safe time of 6-7 hours to release when California is asleep. But right now we're validating the product only in California, so that the time difference actually works to our advantage at this stage.
Can I ask a question? So they produce the IP in Europe, and you transfer, so to say, the technology to US headquarters. Is that right?
Effectively, although it all happens on the cloud, so you don't think like that, really. Okay. It's all released to Amazon AWS cloud services. So it feels like one team that just sits in different places. We don't see each other in person. But you feel that the momentum is there, the speed, just modern tools help you work very effectively. And that's the greatest thing. So it doesn't really matter where you sit, as long as you have good communication and things are moving forward.
Just to add one short question, if any investor asked you to bring over a developer, was this like something that was required?
I'd say the opposite. I think whenever we told the story, I actually hired my previous co-founder from Poland. So our CTO, I have 20 years of experience working with him in the past. So when they heard that there is a relationship, there's a local guy who's going to manage the team, and he's going to hire from our old network, they found it as a big advantage because developers in Poland are very talented, in the whole region in Central Europe, but they still cost around 1/3 of what's happening here. The fight for talent is so aggressive, so competitive in the Valley that you burn your capital much faster than you do if you collaborate with Central European teams. So we have to have sales, marketing, insurance operations here because we have to be appointed, licensed, compliant. But engineering, which is a major cost center for us, happens all in Central Europe. And that, I think that there's more and more teams that prove that it can work very effectively. And there's more and more successes coming out of Central Europe when it comes to technology. Typically, they build a product there and they build sales and marketing teams here and they distribute globally, often from Silicon Valley or the East Coast. We're the opposite. We created the IP conceptually as a business model here, and we're building there.
Can I just quickly add to this?
Absolutely.
This is nothing unusual. Don't be worried about it if you're thinking about how am I going to manage 2 different locations. Almost every startup we see here has a location here, and then they move to Denver, they move to Portland, they move to Salt Lake City, they move to Austin. This is a trend right now because it's just impossible to hire anybody 23-year-old doesn't get out of bed below $100,000, right? And it's very difficult to manage the cost. So going to Romania, going to Poland, going to Austria is right now a standard. It's not an exception.
Okay. So, but what are the challenges? Maybe Hubert or Daniel. What are the challenges in those types of work, in those because it sounds cool, and I totally agree. There are a lot of advantages financially and others. But what are like the let's say challenges that you guys face?
It's definitely easier to work in a distributed fashion thanks to all the tools. I would just caution that it depends on the stage of the company. So the earlier you are, the riskier it is to build a distributed team. You know that you guys build a distributed team from very early on. But if you have very high uncertainty about the problem that you're solving, and as well as the solution, you don't know really how to do that, then any kind of friction makes it more difficult. So what we're discussing is that we are already in the stage that we kind of found the product market fit, or we have pretty good idea where we're heading, and then it's much easier to start building distributed teams, and they have more clearly defined goals. But I would just be careful if you're just starting to like have one person here and another person in a different location and a different location. You can do that, absolutely, but it's harder.
Are you using a software that supports, so to say, the process?
Yeah, we're using
the same thing
and all the online tools, and everything's online. It's just like when you compare it, the co-located team will beat the distributed team. I wonder what you would think about that. Because you just can't sit next to each other and kind of like brainstorm at the same time all the time.
So you are doing the same thing, like management, financial.
Yeah. So we are not actually. Our team is not just development center. We have product manager, we have a designer, we have engineers, we have customer success, we have a marketer. So the team is fully like cross-functional team that's in the Czech Republic. And my vision is that if we expand here, it would be again a cross-functional team. Of course, if you ask someone, I remember to change the VCs, even like 2-3 years ago when I was still saying, hey, we have a team in the Czech Republic, and people were asking, well, but then you're going to bring them over here. And then, very quickly this shifted, like over a couple of years. And like, if I said that, the answer would be, why would you do that? Yeah. So
Andreas, from a more mature perspective, your startup, you went through all those phases. What did you think about that?
Okay, thanks for calling me. So I agree, like innovation is easier in person because there's a lot of subtleties in like how humans connect and how humans communicate. There's like a wide, but it's just easier in person. Innovation is easier in person. Iteration is easier distributed because you can focus, you can optimize on your own schedule, and you can optimize for your own performance. From my point of view, remote work or distributed work is the logical evolution of digital work. Everybody here is already a remote worker. You might just not know it. Like everybody here is currently checking their email on their phone, most likely answering. Everybody here has like a laptop, works from a coffee place. Everybody here has people at home working currently, Skyping in, all this kind of stuff. Everybody's already a remote worker, but we already stopped seeing it this way. We used to go online. Now nobody goes online anymore. It's just disappeared. The same way is like with remote. Like we used to be a remote team, and now kind of everybody's already working mobile. And very soon everybody will just work remote. The only question is how often do you see your folks in your, like if you work with. And in large companies it's often like very common that you actually see the people you work in the same project, you see them like twice a week. So it's kind of a remote team already, you just like happen to be in the same building.
Are you guys all not facing those issues that I see in my organization sometimes where I feel like, why don't you take the phone and make a call to solve this problem rather than writing the 4th or 5th post or whatever? So like also, understanding and making the right decision, which tool do I use when in order to enforce and to strengthen this remote culture, right? This is a day-to-day struggle we're also fighting, no? Daniel, what is your experience in this field?
Actually, these points are really familiar for, I think, at least it seems for all of us. Yeah, digital technologies can help a lot for these collaborations. Actually, we are also providing a solution for these aims as well. But we shouldn't miss one point because, for example, last night we had a client meeting from 1 a.m. After that, we had a team meeting from 7 a.m. Sometimes it happens, so you have to adjust to that and you have to have the right motivation for that. And not just you, but also your team members. And it's also another challenge, I think, for all of us to find the right person for the right position and to motivate and work together and collaborate in the right way.
In order to motivate, there are like different tools. I mean, I learned that in Europe, like giving shares, ESOP programs and stuff, it's pretty new still, so companies don't do that often, which is super like common here in Silicon Valley. You guys, can I ask, it's like super sensitive question, but do you guys give ESOP stocks to your employees?
Yes, I agree that it's rare, relatively in the region, still not a common standard. But we do options for everybody. Actually, we do stock that vests over time, over 4 years.
Like 4 or 5 years stock?
Yeah, typically 4 years. 4 years is a standard. And we have to actually educate engineers when they join, what it means, how it works, what are the mechanics, because they haven't seen the vehicle before.
Right.
And I had done options 12, 15 years ago in my first company, when it was completely unusual to give options. And that the legal system is just not wired for options. It's just so difficult to do. So when we were selling a company, we basically gave cash away from the deal because converting options into shares in the Polish legal system was just mission impossible.
You do stock, not options, right now?
We do stock.
Like this is super rare. This is like super employee friendly. Like in Angeles we do the same, but like very few companies do it. Like options is almost like a scheme. It's almost like a trick. It's like the big hidden thing that nobody talks about, that everybody uses for motivation, but actually it's like almost a scheme.
Right.
And like
so you get hard equity vested in 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, but you buy it. And if you want to leave, you need to buy it, and you have to have the money to buy it, and on so on and so on. So stock is actually you already own it, and so like kudos for that.
And just to add to that, so that's a big advantage when we hire and we take people from larger companies or typically hotter, bigger startups because they have the right experience, the right mindset. So the stock is an advantage for us. But when we show them California contracts or employment contracts, they freak out. Compared to European protectionism in a typical legal employment contract, and we have to explain so many terms there because
40 pages.
We lost a couple of guys who just walked away because they got scared of the legal framework around California law, which we believe in California is quite friendly to employees, right? But relative to most European countries is the opposite.
There might be future employees, so you offer stock options or equity, or they won't drink a beer with me tonight.
Not after the panel, we can.
No, we offer stock options, but it's so early right now that the strike price is so low that it's still very lucrative.
Yeah.
Maybe later on we should evaluate.
So when you get approached by Netflix or one of these really large corporations and they think about buying you as a startup, is this one of the critical questions? So how many ESOP shares did you give away to the employees, or is this something totally welcome?
You mean one of the questions from the candidate?
Exactly.
Well, yes, I think that's the standard, as we all know, and those companies know that too. And I guess not necessarily you have to ask; you just are informed about this. So that's really nice. That's and then we get used to this. That's also something that we don't realize that other, not necessarily countries, but even regions don't have that.
But you have a good overview of the startup scene. Is this what we talk here? Is this representative?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
For sure.
Can I just add?
Absolutely.
One thing of advice is don't be afraid to talk about this. Whenever I hire Europeans, nobody negotiates the package. I'm kind of working against myself. When I hire Americans, there's always discussion about the comp and can you bump it up and here and there and so on.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid and don't feel bad like that this isn't something that is too sensitive. You need to be fairly compensated, and it's a perfectly fine conversation to have.
Yeah. I mean, fortunately, we have people from the other side, from the VC party, so they're sitting here. Like at another party on the weekend, I met a future employee from Apple, and I asked him, he worked with me in another company, and I asked him, what's your job there, what are you making? He's a senior developer, pretty talented, and Apple offered him right away, without team lead role, right away, $320,000. So how should any startup compete here in Silicon Valley that wants to find developers? How do you address this topic?
Boredom.
Right.
Some people are motivated by money, but there's an upper scale to that. So you want to do something new, you want to have more fun, it's more strict, so that's one thing. And second thing is, there's a limit to Apple because you need to go to the corporate ladder. Here, people who join this, they fight that 1-2% chance that this is going to be 100, 200, 300, 400 million. It's a small chance, but that's what the Valley is based on. It works.
Right.
I think you also find a lot of people in the Valley that are intellectually curious, and engineers in particular, they want to keep learning. So if you get stagnant at a place like that, you're working on the same framework again and again, you're doing the same thing, but working in a hyper-growth startup, you're going to have 5 or 6 different roles over the course of however long you stay there. And so that's another key incentive. And then hopefully you're working on something that's a large enough vision to get people excited about that's greater than just the money, which is decent.
But you're representing 500 startups, so you have a vast amount of startups that, so to say, you meet and then potentially you invest in. So you don't see this war of talent between the corporations and the startups?
I think at the stage that we invest in, at the earliest stage, there's a certain set of people that are crazy enough to join at the early stage, and so typically at that stage, there's not as much competition. Joining a team that's, being a founding team member, joining between 2 and 10 people is a very risky proposition. So it's a certain type of person that's comfortable with that level of risk. So I think that's, certainly we do down the road, once our companies get to Series A and B stage, then absolutely. But at the earliest stages, not as much.
Maybe a lot of founders would be interested in what is the ESOP total percentage that you would advise a startup to reserve? Where does future investors in Series A, Series B, C feel comfortable investing in? Is there a number you can?
This is highly individual, but I think anywhere between kind of 7.5% and 15% is normal, and it depends on what needs you have. So if you have the full team, you can do less. If you don't have a full team, you'll go higher. But I think that's the standard range.
So how do you guys see actually the bridge that we were talking about, having developers in Central Europe, mostly times also research teams, management, funding, marketing efforts, market entry efforts here? How do you see that as an investor? Is this good, bad, neutral?
We see this all the time. So a couple of companies come to mind. StatSpot out of Moscow, brilliant engineering team out there, and then actually came in through our program, raised capital here, keeps their kind of business, marketing, and product teams here. Another company, Rapid API in Israel, has a phenomenal engineering team there, and then also sales, marketing, and developer relations are all managed out of here. So we love those. We love those models. We back them. Both those companies have raised from top tier downstream capital, Andreessen, and a handful of others. So we are all about it.
You back them if the IP is here, right? They can develop there, but they put the IP into an American name.
Yes, in both those cases, they are Delaware C Corps.
Okay. The same Presidio?
Yeah, no, I think we typically try to back Delaware C Corps as well. Occasionally, we could back a Luxembourg entity for European investments or some other entities for Chinese entities, but strong preference is for a Delaware C Corp. It's not 100% must, but it would have to be a meaningful enough investments to make exceptions, like Luxembourg or UK entities.
Right. Because there are a lot of folks for sure in
Can you guys
Europe
very
joining.
briefly, because I get asked this question all the time by my friends in Europe, can you just explain why it matters to you? Probably one sentence.
The short story is just the legal cost, the complication, the confusion of dealing with new, and confusing legal structures is too complicated. It also makes downstream capital much more difficult, makes acquisitions much more challenging, and also a lot of the employee issues that you were all chatting about difficult as well.
Fundamentally, it comes down to one thing, which is the rule of law. Delaware is very used to corporate. Any dispute, Delaware judges are used to it, so that's when you take through all the layers, it's that's confident with, okay, if there's a legal dispute, we can go to Delaware and it can get solved in a fairly fair manner. I'm not going to say perfectly fair, but last thing you want to be is fighting a law in other remote location in Africa.
So it's Delaware companies, but also UK companies are here, right? You're feeling comfortable investing in.
Yeah, with Singapore as well for us, because we invest internationally and in Asia, so that's another location.
You wanted to ask something first?
Well, not at this point.
Okay.
That was my
Okay.
thought.
That's fine. That's fine. So if we can, so to say, think about raising money, discussing valuations. What is the overall situation of the financial market? What do you think, Peter?
So I'm going to be a little bit biased and impacted because I just came back from Asia, but I think my message to you guys would be, I've never seen a better environment for raising money than now. And I mean even 1999 and 2000. Yes, there was a big bubble, but this has been a sustained long period with a lot of exits, a lot of fundraisers. So if you have a term sheet on the table, do not wait, just take the term sheet and take the money, take as much as you can. I've seen this a couple of times, my colleagues have seen this 4 times. Things crash very quickly, so just take the money. So I think the environment is great. It's to the advantage of the entrepreneurs. Use it, raise the money, is wonderful.
Okay, do you agree?
I would agree with, yeah.
Short story, I would agree with that. I think we saw the last cycle in 2008. I think there was a little bit of a slowing, this kind of fear of winter is coming in 2015, ish around that time. And so now I think it's an awesome time. The rise in seed funds all over. AngelList just announced something awesome around Angel Fund. So there's more and more capital flowing into the ecosystem. I do agree it has to be top-notch company. It has to be product, the market, the team, the traction, all has to be there. But if you got those pieces, it's a good time.
I feel like a little bit of an advocate for this group here too, So we read in these articles all the time, and I wonder who's like really publishing them. The high valuations are gone. I read this on TechCrunch recently. VentureBeat published something 2 days ago. Is this something real? The strategy behind it, or what's the reason for that?
Yeah, I think the crazy high valuations may be gone, but I think that it's probably come down a little bit. But I think the capital is there, and it's much more stable now. So I think we've gone through a set of
more reasonable.
Yeah, more reasonable. We've gone through a set of big bubbles and bursts, but now I think, to your point earlier, it's kind of getting a little bit more stable, and it's consistent. I think that's good for the ecosystem in the long run.
I'd like to counter that. I think Hubert Palan, who was the co-founder of Lending Club, he got fired from Lending Club, just raised identical company to Lending Club, 100 million pre-money valuation, Series A. So if you have a track record, if you're there, the valuations are there. They may not be as crazy. And again, look at them globally. You can get, if you want crazy valuations, you can get them from Chinese investors. They're very eager to invest at high pre-money valuations. So I think money's there, and the valuation question, this is always there. But I think the good news is the money's there right now. So take it.
Okay, thank you so much. So I see that on the screen there are lots of Slido questions coming up. I probably can't take all of them, but I will definitely want to try some of include some of them. Is Teresa here from Slido? Yeah. Thank you so much. So maybe we should take the first question because it goes in both directions, right? As we heard, how would you make Central Europe great again? So okay, that's like. Andreas, thank you so much for taking this question.
First, Europe, not Central Europe. It's like a market of 440 million. It even includes UK. With UK, it's 50 million, but like, they're gone. That's bigger than US. It's the biggest consumer market in the world. We are like, I think the #1 or #2 research, like the amount of research done, essentially. We have comparable amount of developers, like in America and Europe. There's just a very strong localization as in Silicon Valley. So Europe has all the pieces. What Europe extremely misses is that we think of like Poland, Austria, Czechoslovakia, all these like little fields of trees and villages. Like I'm from Europe, I'm born in Vienna. And if there's one thing we need in Europe, is it's a little bit like, we need like a common understanding of Europe. Like all these like country borders in the end is like a very old system. Nowadays, you have more in common with people online than you have with your neighbor, most likely. So from my point of view, we need this. The question is, how do we get there? And for me, the answer is, my personal answer to this is, there's like one really easy hack and 2 harder things. The easy hack is we need a European entity that everybody can do. Like nobody knows what an SRL, DOO, OOD, GmbH. Like nobody wants to invest in this. We need like one common entity that's accessible for small startups. That's the easy hack, hopefully. The hard one is media network. Media perception accepts the global worldview. It accepts like how consumers see the world, how politicians, all this kind of stuff, and essentially makes the markets accessible. Nowadays, you launch in Poland, nobody in Portugal will hear you. Nobody. We launch in Boston, people in San Francisco will hear you. This is media. And the other one is network. Like if it's up to me, everybody who studies should be forced to study another semester like in another European country, like by law. So we need these networks. We have like this extreme fear of like letting people go. Like I moved from Vienna to London for my startup back then,
And I was like in Germany, there's this term like Auswanderer, which means the person who wandered off and left everybody behind. Vienna to London is like 1,500 kilometers. We have people in our team who came from Boston to San Francisco. That's like 5,000 something kilometers. Do you know how Americans call people who do like 3 times the distance between Vienna to London? Like, do you know the word for that? There is none. There is no word for this. And this is where we need to get to. So yeah, network, media, and hopefully like a legal entity.
Thank you so much, Andreas. So the guy who posted the question, I think it's an artificial name, I could think Goland, might remind us of someone. So to also put in, because we had a lot of questions referring to Goland. So Andreas, the question of the visa, like, will whoever this is limit H-1B, whatever, give, prohibiting us from getting access to Silicon Valley? Is this a threat that you see for Europeans, or is this like...
Personally?
Yeah.
There's always like minor fluctuation in the systems, like up and down, up and down. If you look at the long run, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Like for me, the bigger question is, we Europeans fighting among each other, like who will be the next Silicon Valley?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, China is literally eating the cake.
Right.
And we are actually right now trying to fight against Silicon Valley. We're actually completely missing the global story.
Right.
Like, we're not even fighting against the right competitors, if you want to say so, a part of like even having some sort of like a right setup.
Right. So from the VC part, is this like something you invest in a company that is depending on European developers, maybe also management personnel? You're not sure if you can bring them over because there's this Washington DC guy who says, I don't want the Europeans coming in anymore. We don't know that yet, and maybe it turns out to be totally different. But is this something on your agenda, or you don't take it serious and think this is going to become a positive outcome?
It's on my agenda, but I refuse to worry about things that I frankly cannot really influence. I can just live with it and work despite the noise. I think that's the way it characterizes. We tried, and it's just too much to handle in terms of, it's not rational, so we stay away from that, and now we try to do whatever is possible for our limited partners and for our entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I think the other thing is interesting is that we invest globally in regional startup ecosystems across Southeast Asia, the Middle East, Latin America, and I think it's a great opportunity for some founders there, even if something were to happen, which I don't think it's going to be that impactful. But if someone does feel that fear or concern, great, start the company there. There's more capital now being raised in each of those regions that will allow people to start their businesses, particularly if they're regionally focused. I think ultimately, if you want to build a big hyper-growth, venture-funded global business, this is the best place to do it for a variety of reasons. But if not, then build it there.
Brings me to the next question that I want to ask Daniel to have your insights and to give me maybe an answer for it. In your opinion, what is the next Silicon Valley? Where is the next Silicon Valley? Is it in Asia, Europe, Africa?
Okay, so in my opinion, actually, Silicon Valley is here, and it has a reason, and this reason is not just the amazing vibe of San Francisco. But if we have to talk about the next Silicon Valley, I think it's actually happening now on the internet. So because of the developing open innovation, and because of the emerging digital platforms, now the next Silicon Valley literally can be anywhere. So as we all of us working with very distributed teams, and any university students can join to open innovation projects, to big companies, to small startups, and so on. So I think the distribution of the resources, the knowledge, is just very, very democratic at the moment because of this next step. And if we have to think about geographical locations, so different geographic locations with different cultures have different models for that. I think if we have to think about where to go with our businesses, we should think about where our customers are, which industry we are in, and then decide if we have to go to Berlin, to London, into the Silicon Valley, but not just because we want to be here. If we have a good reason for that, yes, but real estate prices are high in the
Right. So thank you so much. So you guys can chase the panelists later during the networking. I want to take maybe one last question because I feel like this is interesting to a lot of people here. How many women and how many Afro-Americans do you have in your companies here? I really want to address this question. Maybe because you're like obviously this a very successful female founder. So do you find a lot of female founders here in the Valley compared to Europe? So
I find plenty of them.
yeah.
And maybe because I'm a woman, that's maybe easier. But when it comes to my show, I can easily say that many more women are asking to be on the show than men. And you know, I feel like there's just so many women here, awesome women that do amazing startups. And actually, you know, when it comes to my show, I'm sure that it's at least partially because I'm a woman, but it would be hard for me. It's kind of challenging to me not to have like almost all women or like most of the women on my show. So that's good, I guess. You know, they are proactive, they are very ambitious, they are proud. And there are so many women-related, you know, events, conferences, and I feel like also those meetings are very honest, and women like to talk about their experiences. They are not, you know, shy and very open. So yeah, I can be proud of them, you know, and I found that many male founders that I have on my show also have female founders in their co-founding team. So actually, I don't personally experience this kind of trend that there is less women or that it's harder for women. I know that statistics say so, but here in Silicon Valley, I don't really see much of that.
I've been searching my company for female developers for 10 years. It was not very successful. I would love to have female success. Do you have female developers?
Yeah, we have, and actually we have a female founder and CEO of our company. She's also sitting there, by the way.
Where is she? Okay.
Yes, she does.
Hi, welcome.
And at least half of our team is female.
50-50?
At least, if not the majority. I tried to calculate that, and we also have developers.
Okay.
Actually, 2 developers.
Okay.
Female developers.
Female developers. Very cool. How about you guys?
We have, out of 15, we have 4 women. And just to break the stereotypes, or maybe where the question's coming from, we actually have an African-American girl who moved from New York to Prague, and we hired her. So like, it's not always, you know, the simple European engineers, and so things are really diverse.
I guess we're behind. We're 2 out of 12. But that's, I think the engineers, especially based in Poland, are heavily male. And there are very few female engineers that we can hire from. Okay. So that's just the nature of the market there.
Yeah, we take diversity very seriously at 500. I think we're the most diverse venture fund, period, at least in the top 3 or 5. And we actively track. So I think one of the things that's important is just measuring, because that's the best way. So we actively track for our accelerator batches and just generally our investing. It's something that's important to us. So I think, you know, you can't change what you don't measure, so maybe it's one place to start. I do believe there is, you know, the statistics certainly show that there is a challenge, but I think things are moving in the right direction. So I'm generally optimistic.
Very cool. I think that's a lot of great news here on the stage. I see the entire panel sees future super optimistic, lots of money to get from the VCs, great ideas that can chase the money then later on. So I hope you enjoyed this panel and had some insights maybe here and there, and grab a beer and a glass of wine and some snacks and enjoy here the, I hope so for all of you, great emotions of the Central Europeans here in Silicon Valley. Thank you for coming.